So, brothers and sisters, we celebrate today the feast of the Epiphany. Epiphany is a Greek word which means to reveal. Therefore, an epiphany is a revelation. Now, there can be two kinds of epiphanies, public and private. A person can have an epiphany moment, which is more like a moment of clarity or understanding in which a truth is revealed. We see that in St. Paul in our second reading from Ephesians today. But what we celebrate as a church today is the public epiphany, which was the revelation of the birth of the Savior of the world, Jesus Christ, in Bethlehem. This revelation was made known to the shepherds in the fields, to the hosts of heavens, such as the angels who attended his birth, and to the Magi, the three wise men of whom we hear in today's readings. Now, the wise men were astrologers. In other words, they were the astronomers of their day. They were a meld of science and faith who advised important people such as kings, which is why they are sometimes associated with kings as kings. Now, Magi would observe the night sky and the movement of stars and planets and would interpret what that all portended. When these Magi discovered the Christmas star, they knew that it meant the birth of the Messiah, the promised Messiah of Israel. Now, there have been two very interesting and important developments in astronomy recently. The first happened in the last month or so regarding the star Beetlejuice. And yes, that's how it's pronounced, just like the character in the Tim Burton movie. Now, Beetlejuice has been dimming, and the scientists believe that this is a star that it's in the last stages of its life cycle, which means that it's about to go supernova. A supernova is when a star collapses in on itself and then suddenly explodes into a cascade of energy. Now, when this supernova happens, when the star Betelgeuse explodes, it will be visible to us from Earth with the naked eye. However, this is the thing to remember. Whenever we look into the night sky, we are actually looking into the past because of the nature of the universe, the fact that the speed of light is a constant in the universe. So it takes light a certain period of time to reach us. Even, for example, the light from the sun takes 18 minutes to reach us. So when we're looking up at the sun, we're looking up at what was the sun 18 minutes ago. Now, the star Betelgeuse is 640 light years away. That means it takes the light from that star 640 years to reach us. So what we are actually observing is the star Betelgeuse 640 years ago. So when, in fact, it explodes, well, actually, the idea is it probably already has exploded. It exploded 640 years ago, and it's going to take that long for the light to reach us. Now, all of that is particularly fascinating to me because of the implications for the Christmas star. You know, if it was a natural phenomenon that God used to give the world its epiphany, then it would have been set in motion hundreds or even thousands of years before the birth of Christ. Now that's awesome to think that all the universe is God's playground to do with as his will, as he wills, that he could set all of these things in motion to announce the birth of Jesus Christ, his son. The second big news happened just a little over a week ago on Christmas Day. NASA launched into space, after much delay, the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, the telescope is named after a famous astronomer, and it cost $10 billion, and it is 100 times more powerful than the Hubble Space Telescope, which has provided us much knowledge about the universe as we know it today. It will take the Webb telescope about 4 weeks to travel to its destination, which is a point of orbit much farther than our own moon, which is called a Lagrange point. And there it will, on the way there, it will deploy itself and all of its instruments, unfurling a huge heat shield and its mirror, which is made of gold, which is just micro thin, and it will, once it reaches there, begin sending data back to the earth about what it observes. Now, here's the thing. So far, everything's gone okay, but there are 100 little things that could go wrong in its deployment. So we're all hoping that it does so. I mean, some may question whether we should spend $10 billion on such things or not, but it's already spent, so it would be in our best interest that it all worked. So if we are able to see what this telescope is promising us, well, we would be able to see the stars and galaxies as they were first formed shortly after the Big Bang. This is pretty important stuff. Even more interestingly, we may finally be able to observe planets where life has formed, or even detect signs of intelligent life, which we have not yet been able to do with definitive proof. Now, if those things pan out, that's going to have a profound effect on humanity, and we will begin asking ourselves some fundamental questions. But let me be quick to point out, none of this should disturb us as Christians. Some people talk as if there's a war between faith and science, but there is no such war from a faith perspective. Our advances in science are merely ways in which we are coming to understand God's creation. God's very nature is, by definition, unable to be proven or disproven by science. Now, some scientists may claim otherwise, but that simply shows their personal bias and indeed their unscientific approach to reality. For us, God is already revealed because it is only God who can reveal himself to us. So that's why Epiphany is so important. It is God's revelation of himself to the world. Therefore, science can only tell us more about him because he will be revealed in the nature of the universe. Now, I know you're saying to yourself right about now, there goes Father John talking about his science stuff and all this stuff, which is, his little thing. Actually, today I woke up and I turned on my television just out of habit, and there was a video by Bishop Bishop Robert Barron. And it was on this very thing. So I didn't watch all of it, and I didn't borrow any of it, but maybe I'm not quite as unintelligent as I seem if I can be preaching the same thing Bishop Barron's preaching on the same feast day. So what does this all really mean to us? Well, again, it's about how God reveals himself to us. And it can be in this way. In fact, I'm glad to see our Magi made it to the manger. You know, they were over there just a week ago, and I was wondering how they were going to make that whole trek in just 1 week. But they did. They're there now. So God reveals himself to us in his son Jesus. Jesus is the ultimate epiphany. Jesus is the full and complete revelation to us of God. Therefore, when we read about Jesus, when we follow Jesus, when we model our lives on Jesus, we are, again, being revealed the God who loves us, a God who created this entire universe for us. You know, that's the thing. What did Hubble do? Hubble, which is 1/100th the power of this new telescope, focused on a little bit of space, about yay big, for 11 days. And it was a part of space that scientists said was empty, didn't have anything in it, really. Well, when they developed that picture, there were 10,000 galaxies in that one area of space. Galaxies, not solar systems. We live in a solar system that lives in a galaxy called the Milky Way, which is thousands and thousands and thousands of stars. They determined from that one little picture that there are probably 125 billion galaxies. And that, they determined later, was probably a low number. There could be as many as 2 trillion galaxies. Multiply that by number of stars, multiply those stars by number of planets, and you begin to see how really huge, awesomely huge space is. But it was all created for us. Some people would say, oh, that's just crazy. It isn't. It's God's gift to us. Maybe some others like us, but most certainly to us as well. Therefore, when God reveals himself, as he did in the manger, in Jesus, he is showing us our value, our importance. It's easy to get lost in that vastness and say we have none, but it's not true. We are beloved by God, and God is going to bring us to himself.